Hello and welcome to my weekly video blog, and today on A Vogel Talks Menopause I'm going to be talking about what to eat for good bone health in the perimenopause and menopause. If you like my tips and advice, then please subscribe and remember to hit the bell icon so you can be notified of all my new videos. Bone health can be impacted quite dramatically during the perimenopause and menopause and end up resulting in things like osteoporosis by the time you're post-menopause. The problem with osteoporosis or weak bones is that there are no symptoms, there are no indications that anything is wrong until you fall over and end up having a serious fracture. So anything you can do in the perimenopause and menopause to support your bone health is going to be absolutely vital for how well your bones do by the time you reach post-menopause. So today I'm going to talk about the foods that you can eat and just incorporate into your daily diet that will go a long way to helping your bones. The reason this happens, the reason you can end up with weak bones, in really simple terms, if you want to know more of the scientific details, you can also Google with it. But basically, falling estrogen interferes with the way in which your bones keep themselves built up. There's a whole process where calcium is taken from the bones on a regular basis, and then calcium is put back. So this to and fro can be changed with the falling estrogen. So you lose calcium from the bones, but it's not replaced. So over time, your bones become weaker, they become more porous, and they can fracture very, very easily. So what we're going to look at here is some of the key nutrients to help you just to support the whole of this situation. So a well-balanced diet is going to be good for your general health. There's so many studies out there showing that a well-balanced, healthy diet can go a long way in helping to ease symptoms in the menopause. But there are very specific nutrients that can help and support your bones. So number one is vitamin D. This is really important because vitamin D helps your body to absorb and use calcium correctly. If you don't have enough vitamin D, you may be having a calcium-rich diet, but there's no mechanism for the calcium to actually get to your bones. So vitamin D is one of these nutrients that's absolutely vital to help to keep your bones nice and strong. It's also, vitamin D also helps to maintain the balance of calcium in your bones. So if you're taking too much calcium out of the bones, vitamin D is going to make sure that you get that calcium replacement. So the foods is quite a difficult one because the only main foods where you get vitamin D is things like mushrooms. There's very few in the diet. The main way that you top up your vitamin D is via sunlight. Problem today is if you live in countries where you don't get a great deal of sunshine, then it's much harder for your body to manufacture vitamin D naturally. Also, we're so used to now putting suntan cream on, so when we go out into the sun, that sunlight can actually be blocked from producing vitamin D into our in our skin. You can get supplements, they're very easily obtained. The only thing I would say here is please be very careful about not overdosing. Today we're all about more is better, so there's a lot of vitamin D supplements that are really, really high. If you take too much vitamin D, it can be stored in the liver and it can end up causing problems over time. So we tend to recommend a supplement of 400 IU of vitamin D on a daily basis. This is just if you feel you want to top it up or you feel that you should top it up. If you have been diagnosed as vitamin D deficient by your doctor, by your practitioner, by your clinician, then you follow their advice, because very often if you're deficient, that can be quite serious and in which case you will be prescribed a really high dose. Number 2 is calcium. We need calcium for our bones to strengthen the bones and to keep them strong right through the perimenopause and the menopause. Foods are dark green leafy vegetables, nuts and seeds. Believe it or not, figs and apricots, dried fruit can be really high in calcium, but obviously just a few a day because they contain an awful lot of fruit sugar as well. Eggs, things like tofu, beans, and whole grains. Sardines, if you like sardines and don't mind the little bones, that can be a very useful source of calcium. People always ask, what about dairy? Problem with dairy is, and I'm just going to talk about magnesium in a minute, you need a balance of calcium and magnesium. Dairy products are very high in calcium, but very, very low in magnesium. So if you have an awful lot of calcium foods in your diet without the magnesium, that can cause problems as well. So I always say with dairy, just in moderation, go for that. So talking about magnesium, magnesium is another mineral that's vital for your bone health. Magnesium is like the bus that takes calcium to the bones. So if you're not getting enough magnesium in your diet, again, if you're eating calcium-rich foods, they've got no means of transport to get to your bones. So you need to make sure that you are getting enough magnesium. Nature is wonderful because very often it provides both calcium and magnesium in the same foods. So it's the same. Good levels of magnesium are in your dark green leafy vegetables, your nuts, your seeds, your figs, your apricots, beans, tofu, seeds, whole grains. The other food that contains nice amounts of magnesium is chocolate. But again, be very wary about eating too much. And if you do go for chocolate, I mean, some people tell me they have one little square a day. I couldn't do it. I would eat the whole bar. But if you are strong-willed and just maybe 1 or 2 pieces of chocolate a day, go for the really, really dark chocolate because it's higher in magnesium and much, much lower in sugar. Next is protein. Why do we need protein for our bones? Well, apparently protein helps to increase the calcium absorption from our gut, from our food, into our system so that the calcium can then be taken to the bones. So this is a really important one, and protein needs go up generally in the menopause. There's all sorts of other physical changes going on, and protein is part of our building blocks for our whole body. The other really important thing here is that as you go through the perimenopause and menopause, there is something called sarcopenia, which means that your muscles just start to waste away. They start to shrink. They get much weaker. If your muscle mass gets weaker, then there's going to be less support for your bones, especially things like the big joints. So that's your knees and your hips. So if there's less stability for these joints, then you're much more likely to get fractures, especially hip fractures, when you do fall or trip over. So making sure you get enough dietary protein, preferably with every meal, is a really important step as well. Other things you can do if you feel your diet's not quite good enough, or you just want to make sure that you're taking enough, then you can look at our balanced mineral drink. This contains vitamin D, calcium, magnesium, zinc and potassium. So this contains nutrients that are needed for bone health, and we also recommend this for things like fatigue and tiredness. You can put this in water, you can add it to your protein shake, which is a good idea if you don't eat a lot of protein, or you're vegetarian or vegan, then a plant-based protein powder can be a really good addition to your daily diet for all sorts of reasons. And you can also put this in smoothies as well. Remember too that regular daily weight-bearing exercise is absolutely vital for your bone health as well. So I hope you found this one helpful. It's such a common complaint, especially here in the UK and probably in a lot of other countries as well, that so many women post-menopause end up with osteoporosis and serious fractures. So this is such an important one just to get to grips with, to help you avoid this later on in life. If any of you have any other tips or have experienced any issues with your bones and how you sorted this out for yourself, please share them with us. We'd love to read all about it. And until then, I will see you next week for another edition of A. Vogel Talks Menopause.